Well, hello everyone. We missed y'all last week.
We sure did. We're happy to be back, coming to you live on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. We're so
Yeah,
happy to be here. I did miss you, Lee.
yeah, I missed you too. I thought it was very weird not doing this show because, as y'all know, we've been doing this show since April, and
April
that's been a
7th.
long time. April the 7th, beginning of April, and that's been a very long time. And we decided. So I went on vacation last week, and we were like, let's just do a rerun and just take a little breather. But it was very weird.
It was weird. And
Yeah,
there was so much going on last week that it was nice to have a break
yeah,
emotionally, physically, and from going live and having content delivered on Tuesday. So it was nice to have that break to
yeah.
just
It,
be in lament with our siblings in Christ.
yeah, yeah. It just shows like in this time of history, like I mean, within hours, things can just like change. I mean, and we saw that with, this week with the taxes coming out from Trump, and also for Breonna Taylor. We saw that this past week with no indictments for two officers, and then one of the officers being charged with something that didn't even have to do with Breonna Taylor's death. It had to do with her neighbors. Um,
The
and
wall.
so, and yeah, the wall. And so we did want to start this out since we didn't come on last week. We did want to mention and to really uplift our siblings of color, specifically our Black siblings and Black women. Um, and we wanted to again condemn all forms of systemic oppression and racism and white supremacy within our society. And we are praying for Breonna Taylor's family and for everybody who has been really affected by this. That
Yeah.
this injustice. So
Because when one of
um,
us hurt, we all hurt.
yeah, and we are going to have a moment of silence um, for Breonna Taylor, for her family, and for our Black siblings who are continually to be traumatized when times like this happen, when justice is not found and justice is not given. So we are going to have a moment of silence for about a minute for Brianna. And just during this moment of silence, uh, uplift all the people that are suffering because of this, and also reflect on how you perpetuate systems of white supremacy and racism. And so, right now, we will do that moment of silence, and we'll actually bring on our guests to join us in that moment of silence. So we'll bring on our one of our guests, Elona Street-Stewart, who is our co-moderator, as we do this moment of silence. So let us reflect for a minute. And amen.
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 Thank you, Lee, for leading us in that. And we invite you to also lift up any prayers, any concerns, anything that you want to add in the chat to go along with that moment of silence as we continue on our show.
And now we do welcome
Welcome.
one of our guests. We will preface and say that Gregory is going to join us. He had something come up, and hopefully he will join us later on. Yeah, so prayerfully, he will be with us. But we are so delighted to have one of the co-moderators of the PCUSA with us, Elona Street-Stewart. So welcome.
I'm pleased to be with you and join you in your conversation tonight.
Thank you for being here.
Talk.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited that you are here with us. And look at there, Gregory is here.
All right.
Let's see here.
Look at God.
How y'all doing?
There he is.
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to it on this phone, so y'all bear with me.
Well, thank you for thank you for joining us.
Oh, no doubt. Glad to be with you.
So yeah, we'll start off the conversation. So many people watching may not know what a co-moderator is. And so maybe explain what that is to people who are watching. So what is a co-moderator of the PCUSA, and what do you do? And anybody can chime in.
Well, of course, the opportunity to serve is based on the election by the General Assembly. So individuals stand to be nominated, and then the body of the Assembly votes, and whoever then presides over, from that vote becomes the moderator. That's really what the standing rules have. It's only been in more recent years that we've actually had co-moderators, because the tradition has been that there was a moderator and then a vice moderator who would share that role. Whenever the moderator could not participate in something, the vice moderator would then represent the church as the moderator. But the denomination really made a pretty bold move, as Gregory and I watched years back, when 2 previous General Assemblies ago, to elect co-moderators. And at that time, the question was, so is this one position with 2 people in it, or how do you have like 2 different people? And we're, I think, living into what that means. So you preside over the General Assembly where you were elected. And as co-moderators, then we took turns presiding over the Assembly. But in many ways, we will serve then in the years between the assemblies to officiate across the church, to represent the denomination, to bring the message, of the church and the gospel. As 2 individuals elected to represent the church, we want to make sure that the word is preached. And as moderators that you would have, in your session or at your mid-council meeting, you want to make sure that business is done efficiently. I won't add the in order part, because I think we're all challenged in a time of a pandemic. What does in order, orderly mean? But Gregory, what else would you, like to add?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of wrapped it up and put a bow on it, but I would add to that I think one of the main disciplines that we have to reclaim in this day and time is the discipline of spiritual discernment. I think about it in this way: efficiency is doing things the right way. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. You can efficiently do wrong, right? But effectiveness is about having the right thing in view, and efficiency is what's the best way to do this, right? So I think that spiritual discernment involves both of those dynamics. And I think, to really be fruitful going forward as a spiritual communion, we've got to reclaim some of the disciplines of spiritual discernment. I feel very strongly about that. Because even though we have three, I think that we're right on target with the three foci of the Matthew 25 vision, you know, building congregational vitality, dismantling structural racism, eradicating systemic poverty. To dig down into that, you have to ask, how is God at work in this? And not just kind of want to perform the mechanics of it to kind of check it off, but how is God moving in this? You know, from day to day, from week to week, from month to month, and that's the importance of spiritual discernment, to see that, to see how God is at work, and then join God in that work.
And as Presbyterians, we say the body chooses that by the Spirit, you know, the leading of the Spirit. And I do believe, you know, because Gregory and I prayed in this process prior to, you know, anytime we speak or afterwards, and even while we were presiding after the election, we really were saying that we're not just doing this alone, and it should not just be our words, or whether we're strong enough at the moment to be able to lead the entire body through this work. And so again, it's one position, or, you know, one office being recognized, but now it's with two people there. So
Right. And the beauty of it is, too, I think Elona and I are very intentional about saying we want to model what a healthy relationship looks like between a teaching elder and a ruling elder.
Right.
In too many of our contexts, it's adversarial and unhealthy, and we want to model what true parity and fellowship and togetherness looks like in carrying out the mission of Christ.
And I'm hoping that, you know, at the end of our 2 years, I will at least maybe have grown about 2 more inches.
And I would have lost at least 20 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elona and Gregory, for telling us a little bit about the history that the PCUSA has recently taken to move from moderators, vice moderator perspective to co-moderator perspective, and also a little bit more about why you feel called. I think, Gregory, you started to go there, but I'm just going to ask it. And for those who might have missed it, what is your I call it love stories of being joined together as co-moderators? How did you two feel called to team up? How did you feel called to go serve and to become in this process to be co-moderators? Can you share a little bit about that backstory? I know the two strengths that you both bring by having the young adult roundtable, being an intergenerational dialogue, getting to know a little bit more about you two personally, but everyone wasn't privy to that conversation. So to uplift some of that, how you two feel called to do this work in partnership, as you stated, before you got actually elected or called to this ministry.
Well, I guess in a nutshell, Elona and I feel like the two primary communities that have shaped us have good medicine to offer the PCUSA. We believe that in our bones, that our experiences, our elder and ancestral wisdom has much to offer to bring healing and wholeness and vitality to the PCUSA. And we want to bring the gifts of our people to that task.
Right. And of course, you know, I live in Minnesota, Gregory's in Alabama, so it's not like we knew each other every day, but there was somebody who knew both of us.
Right.
And of course, that's what happens in life. It's, you know, other people that know you, that talk to other people. And so when we were, you know, asked to talk to each other from a good friend, Reverend Alika Galloway, here at Liberty Community Church, I think within, well, actually, it was even before I made the phone call because she said she had already called Gregory.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, oh, it's already taken care of, Elona. I done
Right.
called him. But we talked, and with just a few minutes, we felt like there was such a connection,
Right.
so close to just our understanding of the church and the world, and again, because it was a mutual friend, so we became acquainted because of a relationship, and that's really
That's it.
as
That's the
Gregory
word.
talks about all this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No. You're on it. Relationship. That relationships are the tracks on which the love train rolls.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
So
think the
we're
OJ's made.
not.
I think the OJ's made a song about it, didn't
Yeah.
he?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it is really a delight to work with Gregory. So that's all I can say. So even if we
Likewise.
didn't know each other, it's like, but we know people together. So the more that we get acquainted with our backgrounds, it's like, oh, you know that person too, and you work there, and yeah. So yeah, it's come together in just a wonderful way. Yeah.
It
Well,
really has.
I will say I love the intentionality that you put behind everything that you have started to do in your tenure, even from your symbol to what you stand for, and even lifting up the connectional piece, not only of your ministry, but how, Presbyterian Church USA tries to live into that connectionality and being intentional. And I will say, personally, I was excited that you all were running. Can't talk about the whole span of the church, but at least in my short 30 years of being Presbyterian, seeing two people of color running together and being a strong team was very inspirational for me. So thank you.
Right. And
Oh, thank
neither
you.
Gregory or I just kind of arrived. That's really what we represent, is that we have been here for a long time. And the communities that we come from, it's not like
Right.
we simply represent those communities. Our community, our people have been in this church for a long time. And so it's important for us to say, oftentimes the church has just moved on and doesn't pay attention to the fact that, our people have been so much a part of the church and its development and raising the truth in the middle of whatever the church business is. That's what I think we so enjoy it about, getting acquainted with our histories, because we keep saying, it's like a history lesson. That's all I can say. Our conversations are really like history lessons. It's like, oh, this thing happened and here's this book or here's a record of whatever. That's what we think really needs to be highlighted in the church, because from our communities, there is all kinds of recollections and memories, sacred memories, about relationships and people. And again, so we want to say the church isn't complete until all that stuff is included. Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah, and I remember I was over there on the couch watching the General Assembly, because if nobody knows, the Presbyterian Church did their General Assembly all virtual. And it was amazingly produced. I was very impressed. But I was really glad that it was done that way, because so many people got to see that. And so many people got to see the church take a step in electing two people of color that represents their communities that, as Elona was saying, have always been a part of this church. And so it was just an amazing thing to witness. And I think that, seeing the response to that as well, it's something I'll never forget. And I know that, and how people got to see it in the way that they did, I will never forget that. And I'm really grateful that y'all are here to kind of tell us, like, and this is our next question, like, as you two are doing this work, what are your visions for this church? And I know when you were standing to be co-moderators, those things, you told us those things. But I wonder now, in the context of so many things that are going on and such little within hours, like things just happen in our world that changes things so quickly. And I wonder about where y'all want to see the church be, and not just specifically the Presbyterian church, but I mean, just the church in general, about how we are to respond to the things that are happening in our world.
Well, I really, put simply, I want to see the church become the best version of itself. And I believe that we have been given a powerful tool to move in that direction, the Matthew 25 initiative. I want to see every congregation, every presbytery, and every synod sign on with that. I feel and in fact, we feel very strongly that that's the way forward for us to really dive headlong into those three foci: building congregation vitality, dismantling structural racism, and eradicating systemic poverty. We believe that would be a powerful embodiment of and witness to the world of the gospel.
Even just in Matthew 25, it's a long chapter.
Yes.
and what comes before and what comes after is full of challenges. Yeah. So, I mean, that's also the reality. As you said, within 5 minutes, something happened in the world and it changes our lives for a very long time or forever. I think as Jesus spoke, that's what he was doing, not just with the disciples, but with, the people in the villages, the people he healed, the children that he touched.
Right.
So just in Matthew alone, if our commitment to the Matthew 25 vision will mean that people will look that up and then actually read the whole chapter, there is just so much to be expressed. It is not easy to just think that we're going to build congregational vitality, and, dismantle, systemic racism, and then look at poverty. Like, yeah, that'll be gone tomorrow. Even Jesus was talking about it 2,000 years ago. So I think the energy that we want to bring to the church is that God is not done with this work. God will supply what we need. That there is, again, out of that sense of vitality, that means we have to nurture each other. We have to nourish each other. We have to be there to lift people up. And right now, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's Indigenous people's, rights, whether it's really understanding that it's not about like diversity, but it's equity of access and inclusion, that these new terms will be terms that need to be incorporated into the church. And we come from, different backgrounds, but they're still so alike. I think, as Gregory said, it's our ancestors. I mean, I know that I'll have to laugh. Sometimes when Gregory's talking, I can hear my dad coming out of his mouth. And when he'll say things about, what his grandma said, and I thought, my grandma said that too. This is really what, we want to be able to say to the church. It's like, well, Jesus said that, or my grandma said that our really being part of the church is understanding that, this is like one opportunity for us to really understand, to see our identity in a new way and what made us the people that we are. So.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Elona, for lifting that up. I think that's very important for us to realize, not only as the church, the Presbyterian sense, but the church, as I would say, the big C, focus on our commonalities and share our narrative. Those are what breaks us as we move forward into engaging in dialogue and being sustainable and moving past a direction that's going to really take a turn and to live more into what God has called this church, Big C, to be. So thank you for lifting and naming that. And also in the importance of storytelling and sharing narratives. As you two might know, but I believe you know, Just Talk Live is focused and geared to young adults, even though our population reaches many. What is the narrative or the story you want young people to hold on to hope, during this time of unrest or unsettlement and uneasiness regarding our nation, maybe questions they might have of the direction of the church, and if they should be a part of that change or if they should believe in the change. What is the narrative that you two want to deliver to young adults?
You want to take a stab at that, Elona?
Yeah, thanks. So, I'm a mom and a grandma, and I realize that, yeah, so when we're talking about young adults, it's my grandchildren now, because my children are already adults. But the narrative I want to share is that within the Native community, there's a couple of things. So when I was old enough to have my driver's permit, I'll just give you this example. And any of my sisters that will hear this or my brother, they'll all laugh. We were growing up driving in Jersey on the Jersey Turnpike. And my dad had been a truck driver all his life. And when we were driving, my dad, while we're on the turnpike, would say, "Honey, come sit under me and let me roll over." He wouldn't stop the car. He wouldn't move it to the side, on the shoulder. We drove by sliding under my dad, taking the wheel, and we kept on moving. And then, because my dad trusted us, he often would fall asleep. And, we laugh about this now. And that was the Jersey Turnpike. I mean, that wasn't out going across North Dakota. But in the Native community, it is real true that as you grow up, your eyes are directed to observing people around you. And that's what you do. And so that you're working right with somebody or you're standing next to somebody. So it isn't like they give you the manual with, 80 pages. What they say is, you're learning next to me because your turn is going to be coming. And then before you know it, you're the one serving the meal. You're the one who is with the drum group. You're one of the dancers, in the circle. And people, will guide you and they'll equip you. You'll get regalia or you'll be given the keys to the car. But the narrative I want to share with young people is you're going to live in a variety of worlds and have different experiences. One world will give you instructions. And that set of instructions will be something usually in a manual of operations. And that's what you're going to be tested on. Another world, not just the other, but another world experience will be observe and watch people. They'll be joining you to practice with them. And then in the midst of that practice, you'll realize you're doing it already. That's the excitement about being a young adult, because in many ways you're already changing the world. We don't have to wait until you meet a threshold of something. What Gregory and I and our experiences will be experiences that say, we're learning from you too. You're already making change in the world. You are, whether it's political involvement in the church, whether it's local or national or even global, we're recognizing you have incredible potential because we want you to observe and we'll support you in observing. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're just going to say thank you for when you do it. So that's my story to share with people.
Yeah. I guess one of the things you often hear people say, well, the young people are the church of tomorrow. No, they're the church. You're the church of today. And we've got to find ways to make the tent big enough to bring the gifts of all of our people, especially young people. And of course, some people have the idea that you have to be hazed a little while and before you can fully participate in the church, but that's not our idea. We believe that God uses all of God's people, and that God is with you, and you have elders and ancestors with you as well, who will cheer you on and encourage you on. I love that passage from Hebrews that says, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run this race with perseverance, looking to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. We got people in the grandstand of life cheering us on. Those who have gone on, people we don't even know of, who are cheering us on. And we're cheering you on because we want to learn from you. We want to to drink from the wells that God has poured into you as well, because we believe y'all have something to offer to bring vitality and vigor into the church. One of the things Dr. Rita Dixon said, she's
Oh,
one of
yeah.
my, you Dr. Dixon, yeah. She was kind of the church development guru in the NBPC, and she said before you even get into all the mechanics and dynamics of church development, the first thing you got to do is generate spiritual energy.
Mhm.
If you don't have spiritual energy, forget about it. I don't care how good your plan is. I don't care how how tight your goals and objectives are. None of that really matters if you don't have spiritual energy. Think about creation. What happened in creation? It was the Spirit of God hovering over the depths, hovering over the darkness that energizes this chaotic matter and brings order out of chaos. And I think that's above, I guess, among many of the
Mhm.
things that young people bring. They bring energy
Mhm.
and vitality that we so desperately need. I remember when I went to my second congregation, and my daughter, she was young then, and she would just walk up in the pulpit, and people were like, oh, yeah. I'm like, no. Folk would have children. They're like, oh, I hope you don't bother. I'm like, I can use my outside voice. I mean, you have to make space. You can't say you want everybody, but when everybody comes, you got your mouth all twisted. Uh, so I mean, you have to create space, and you have to be real about it. Because one thing I like about young people, they'll call BS in a minute. If it ain't looking right, if it ain't smelling right, they'll just call it. And we need that. We need somebody who's willing to do that and not play the game of kind of politeness and courtesy, and then offline say, "Oh man, that was messed up." We need somebody to say it on the spot, so we can get right and be about God's work.
Yeah, I love I love what we're doing here because it doesn't happen enough, like an intergenerational talk. But I do love hearing that, specifically when you bring up children, that the voices of kids are so often ignored because of how young they are, but also just how maybe unfiltered they are in a lot of the times, where there is a kind of direct honesty and a much needed a lot of the times in the church. And so I really do appreciate. I have two nephews, and just how honest kids are about what they observe and how it makes them feel and how they are processing it. So I do really like hearing that when it comes to young people. But I also want to ask, how do we foster that kind of mutual respect in our church? Because I do see it on the young people side too. Like, oh, old people, like
Yeah.
they kind of brush elders off in some ways. So I wonder how we do foster that kind of that mutual respect, and how we can, like partner well with one another. So I wonder what y'all think about that too. How do we nurture that?
Mhm.
The smooth transition from the driver's seat into the passenger seat of the rolling over on the Jersey Turnpike.
Let me just tell you what that would feel like. It's like, Dad, but I mean, my dad was moving. I mean, we had to get under there. Some of it really it can be demonstrated or presented in a way that's all about reciprocity. That the entire circle that's intergenerational has to be present, whether you're physically there or not. But it has to be an intergenerational experience, and the opportunities that we probably have that would be age-specific learning. I mean, that's really important. So there's some things that should be dedicated for young people to be together, for our elders to be together. That's appropriate because there are times where that space and opportunity is specific to a need, or a way that they need to express themselves. It's all about trust. But in general, the circle of the church really should be intergenerational. If we, I think recognize that, again, it's things like, the old Sunday school model. So, you had Sunday school time set where kids weren't even participating in church. That was not our experience at all. And may not be for everyone, but more churches started moving to that. So they had like little people's church or whatever. They set up church so that, you didn't arrive to actually fully participate in worship until maybe you were confirmed. But in my church, we were always in church. And I will say to people, the reason why I do research the way I do was because I would follow the pastor's sermon, and I was writing in my Bible when, I was in elementary school, because I was following the way that he was presenting his ideas and his thoughts. And I realized pretty on there was a pattern there. So again, that was an intergenerational experience between a pastor and me as a young person in the church. I think we have to recognize that those things, the opportunities for that are all around us. What we need to be able to say is, let's recognize the times where we've extended that exclusion time and start stopping that. We need to interrupt that. We need to bring people together more frequently. And whether it's not even just about programming, but it's giving space for people to express themselves and then to value, what they bring and how they share that. I know that, again, coming out of our culture communities, when you went to school, you called your teacher, Mr. Smith or, Mrs. Brown. At church, it was Brother Smith and Sister Brown. And there would be people that was like, for me, that was an honor of respect that was higher than even saying, what you called your teacher. And for the rest of that person's life, that's how I always recall them. And now even in memory, that's how I recall somebody. And when I was elected to the school board in St. Paul, the first superintendent that came on that I was part of that selection was an African-American woman who had been in Washington, D.C. And, people would call her by her first name. I would have to say to people, I can't do that. I'm trying not to call her Sister Harvey, but I would call her Dr. Harvey, because I said, we have learned so much in our communities of respect that when somebody has earned that position, who knows how many battles and sacrifices she had to go through to get there. I, in the public, will want to make sure that she's recognized. So that was, again, here I am, a younger woman looking at her, calling her by her name, her title, Dr. Harvey. So that, again, I think for me was one of those cultural exchanges where I was trying to exhibit that, it's cross-generational, and my value in her would then make it possible for her to value me. Even though I was elected to the school board, I was the school board chair, I was kind of like changing all that and said, no, the dynamic here is these are two women of color and we're both in leadership positions, but I want to recognize her by her full name. And then she in turn, with reciprocity, would recognize me. That's a lesson that we need to understand throughout all of the ways that we engage together. So Gregory, you probably have some other kind of stories there, down where you are, but I think, that's the first one that came to mind. Again, being intergenerational.
I lost connection for a minute. What was the question?
Well, it was, how do we make it possible to provide the opportunity to work with young people?
We'll have a real bad connection.
Yeah, we're hearing that. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Let me try something else. Let me try to reconnect.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting for Gregory to get his audio on board, I just want to ask you another question, Elona. I didn't know you were on school board. That's awesome.
Yes, we've got some things in common.
Yeah, I'm like, so while we're waiting for Gregory, I just want to ask a question how did you allow your faith to influence or not influence, and I know this is going totally off topic of your co-mod role, influence your elected leadership role and position in the community?
Well, there are a couple of things. I wanted people to recognize that because I had already held some elected positions in the Presbyterian Church, my ability to serve with integrity and to be able to consistently be accessible could be demonstrated by my long history of serving in elected positions in the Presbyterian Church. I would also laugh and say to people, hey, the whole issue of parliamentary procedures and running meetings and, chairing, we have moderators, but, it's like, yeah, chairing meetings, I can do that because I'm part of the Presbyterian Church. But then there were also many people in the community.
Lee, are you there?
Are you there?
I am. I thought it was me at
Okay.
first.
No, I think we're having some connectional issues. Let's see. We were doing so well, Destiny.
I know. I thought it was me. It's usually me.
Yeah. Well,
let's take this time to just talk about next week and some of the lineup that we have coming into. We can get our co-mods on, or if we can get our co-mods back on to finish out the rest of this dialogue. And Lee, I'm gonna kick it back. Well, yeah, I'm gonna kick it back to you. I feel like I just asked the question. I've been doing a lot of talking. You can go ahead.
Oh no, I think it's good. Yeah, hopefully they'll come back. We've had some connectional issues. That is just the name of the game when it comes to live streaming. You just never know. You never know. We like to live on the edge a little bit. Go with the spirit. And so, but yeah, we do have a lot of stuff coming up that we're very excited about. And we're very excited about next week, which we will have the stated clerk of the PCUSA on with us, J. Herbert Nelson. He will be with us talking about the vision of the church, just having a dialogue with Destiny and I. And in October, we will also be having, and we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, the Youth Rising Coalition concert / art show / just all kinds of things that will happen there.
Spoken words.
Yeah, all kinds of things are going to be happening, and it will be a way for us to connect to the work of Youth Rising Coalition, and it will also be a way to kind of raise some funds for them, and to also buy art, listen to music, do whatever we can to support young entrepreneurs in Baltimore and around the country. So that is happening October 20th. And again, next week we will have J. Herbert Nelson with us to kind of have a conversation like we're having right now.
Well, the one that we had.
Well, we had, and
not right now. We know that you don't like just us. We got that.
Yeah.
This is not the Lee and Destiny show.
Yeah. So Destiny and I have tried to do a couple of shows by ourselves, and we did not get the reaction that we do when we have guests. So we do realize that we are just the vehicle, but we do have Gregory back with us.
Nice.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened with that. This thing just went crazy, and I had to go back out. This is why we need y'all. I mean, y'all do this stuff with aplomb, and sometimes I have 5 thumbs doing this stuff. So thank you for your forbearance.
Yeah, well, we also lost we lost Elona too. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
But but yeah, we were just going over what's happening next in our in our show the next couple of weeks. But we also, at the end of our show, toward the end of our show, we always offer a space for any last minute comments, any words of wisdom for our viewers that you would want to offer
Or
them.
anything that, sorry, Lee, to cut you off.
Oh, go ahead. I'm good.
No, my bad. Anything that we might have not covered or asked you that you wanted to let our viewers, young people, the PCUSA, or the larger audience that our social network streams reach know as well.
No, I just love what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, the key to making anything work is perseverance. Just stick with it. You know, and we really appreciate what you're doing, and God bless you as you continue to do what you do.
Well, thank you, Gregory, for being here. And Elona sent us an email. Something happened and it kicked her off, and she can't get back on. So, Elona, thank you so much if you're out there. And we really appreciate y'all being here. And Gregory, thank you again for being here. And we will let you go.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you soon. We will see you soon.
Yeah, we will see you soon when we have our.
You know, we got. Y'all have a. Oh yeah, did y'all? Well, I guess y'all haven't said anything about the. Well, we'll just keep that as a surprise.
Yeah,
the other thing.
To be determined. Stay tuned. We got something special brewing up for y'all.
Yeah.
Stirring in the pots. Just the cold pot. We'll be back.
All right. Good seeing you, Gregory.
Yeah.
Well, we just had some technical issues today, so that's okay.
And so it's life. And that's why we are spirit led, and we know how to move in direction of the spirit and let the spirit lead us in these dialogues and conversation. Like you said, it's okay.
Yeah, it is fine. It happens. And yeah. But again, we do have something brewing, and we can kind of give you a little preview. Yeah, we can kind of give you a little preview.
Give them a sample.
So during the PCUSA Week of Action, there was a young adult roundtable, and it went off so well that we have imagined it happening more often with Elona and with Gregory. And with the young adults that were on there. And if you haven't gotten a chance to see that, you should go to pcusa.org/week of action. And I'm going to throw it up on the banner just so you have it. Here you go, pcusa.org/week of action. And you will see the Young Adult Roundtable. And so what we're envisioning is just that, having more conversations, intergenerational conversations with one another and with our co-moderators. And we're really excited about that. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited about that.
And thank you, Lee. And I mean, I wouldn't be the Yav Recruiter if I didn't put a plug in. So sorry. Sure. As you know, the Young Adult Volunteer Program, every year coming to you October 1st, we open up our application season. And this year is no different. Prayerfully, we will be having our 21-22 year be served in person. And so if you are a young adult, ages 19 to 30, who would like to learn more about living in Christian intentional community with a lens of social justice through racial justice, with the Matthew 25 foci, hit me up or go check out our website, youngadultvolunteers.org.
Awesome. And I'm going to put a plug in for Unbound. If you are a writer,
it's our show. Why not?
If you like to write, Unbound is always looking for writers to write about the intersections of faith and justice. And just send that to info@justiceunbound.org. You can find our submission guidelines on the website. It's under the About section. And yeah, if that is something that you like to do, let me know. Send us an email. We're pretty much flexible on the topic, so feel free to write for us. And I think that's all the announcements we have at the end. I'm glad all of our viewers bared with us during our technical glitches, which there wasn't that many. It just kind of happens every so often,
Yeah.
Just happens. But stay tuned next week. We will have a stated clerk of the Peace USA, J. Herbert Nelson, with us. And keep that October 20th date in mind for the Youth Rising Coalition concert. And we forgot, Destiny, we're going to have an election night episode.
Yes.
We will have an election night episode. And get this, Destiny and I will be together. We won't be, Destiny won't be in Louisville and I won't be here. I mean, I will be here. We will both be here together. And that's going to be really exciting. We're going to do it safely. We're both going to get tested. We're going to quarantine. We're going to do all those things. But we figured that for it to be such a big night, we either want to celebrate together or grieve together.
Yes, but we need to do it together in community.
In community. And so we are going to be going to different people we know in different states to get a faith perspective of the election. And just to see what happens. So we're really excited about that episode.
Yes, I don't want to be with any other person besides you, Lee, on that Tuesday night to celebrate.
Yeah.
Or cry.
And we're going to get our own mugs, like real talk shows.
Yes, we're being official.
We're gonna get our own mugs, and we'll have those. So election night, we will be doing a very special episode. So is that all? I think that's all, Destiny.
I think you covered it, Lee. Stay tuned for next week for Reverend Dr. J. Herbert Nelson, Stated Clerk of the Peace USA, and that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, blessings to everyone. Stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and until next time, we will see you then.